What's going on, mate? This is Rishu. Today, we'll learn how we can fake an Australian accent. Right here, let's start. Before we start, let me clarify that this video is basically for educational purpose or is just for fun or entertainment. And my personal observation for the Australian accent might not be accurate because I'm not an Australian, but what I'm trying to do here is to compare different features of Australian accent with a normal accent. So please don't take it seriously. If you think that the my observation is not too accurate, that's okay. It just I'm trying to tell you that how you can imitate or fake an Australian accent because it might help you in your listening skills. Also, if you want to speak like an Australian, then knowing these features might really help you, but it might not be accurate. All right, so basically, there are three types of Australian accent. First is broad accent. The second we have is cultivated accent, and the third is general accent. Now, what is a broad accent? Broad accent is spoken by Australian people who live in countryside, right? For example, people say working class people or say peasant. So these kinds of people have kind of really hard or really typical Australian accent. We call that broad accent. Now we have cultivated accent. Cultivated accent is a more improvised version of the Australian accent. So people are Australian, but because they have been to colleges and school, so they have actually modified and improved their accent. So their accent is a little bit simpler, or I would say easier to understand. Then third accent is general accent. General accent is people how people speak in mainland Australia, for example, Sydney and all these cities. So people have kind of general accent here, and you might relate it to the normal people who are living in Sydney, who are working in Sydney, or you might also say that kind of actors, actors or actresses, celebrity, they have kind of general accent. So basically, these are the three types of accent, and I'm not gonna give you more detail about different types of accent. Basically, we're gonna talk about the broad accent here. So the features I'm gonna tell you is mostly close or related to broad accent because broad accent is a typical Australian accent. So let's talk about all the features. Our focus is basically on the broad accent since it is the indigenous accent. So let's talk about feature number one. Feature number one is R dropping. R dropping. Now, what is that? R dropping means we don't pronounce the R sound, such as the words rider or march, work. Or our second feature is you have to trim T and G sound at the end of the word. For example, running, fight, making. The third feature is EI sound, which is A sound. So you have to pronounce A sound as air. For example, game, make, same, mate. Fourth feature is AI sound, which is I sound. So I sound is pronounced as oi, oi. For example, like, bike, night, inside. All right, let's talk about the fifth feature. The fifth feature is the flap T, like how American pronounce T as a D sound. We call it flap T. For example, if we pronounce the words better, letter, rider, got it. So these words has flap T sounds. All right, the sixth feature is the O sound. The O sound is totally different from the American O sound. For example, let's say some of the words Tom, conservation, walk, road. Okay, the next feature, seventh feature is TU and DU sounds. So TU and DU sounds are changed into ch and ch respectively. Let me give you some examples. For example, if I say Tuesday, institute, and durian, endurance. Eighth feature is the R sound. So unlike the American R sound, they have A sound, but in British or Australian accent, they have R sound. For example, if I say the words can't, tomato, task, sample. The ninth feature is the TR and DR sounds. So these sounds are changed into tr and tr respectively. For example, if I say tree, try, try, drink. The 10th feature is the U sound. So there are so many words and we put a U sound. It's a gliding sound. We basically use it while we speak any word, which is not applicable to all the words, but mostly applicable to few of the words. For example, if I say news, news, not news or new, not new or Jew, not do, or assume, not assume, or nutrition. Apart from that, there's so many Aussie slang that we can use when we speak the language. For example, good day, mate, crikey, rightio, fair dinkum, Sheila. So these are all Aussie's words. If you use them, it's gonna make you more Australian. Also, Australians have this habit of shortening all the words. Let me give you some example. If I say afternoon, I can say arvo, or laptop, lappy, barbecue, Barbie. What's going on? It's gone on. Everything will be right. She'll be right. So you can use all these words and all these slangs and shorten all the words to sound more Australian. Okay, now let's practice speaking in an Australian way. So I'm gonna show you a long sentence and you have to apply all these Australian features and try to speak like an Australian. So you see the sentence. Now let's read it slowly first. Crikey, mate, I can't have some tuna with durian because I like to drink beer. So I'll be going to a Barbie shop next to the tree to buy some mutton. Now we're gonna read the whole sentence quickly. Crikey, mate, I can't have some tuna with durian because I like to drink beer, so I'll be going to a Barbie shop next to the tree to buy some mutton. All right? So you see, if you apply all these features to all these different sentences and words, you're going to sound like an Australian. This is not an accurate way of imitating, but it might help you to listen to an Australian person very effectively. If you know the Australian actor Hugh Jackman, he's an Australian, his accent is more like between, I would say, general or cultivated because he has lived in America, so he also has a kind of American influence as well. But you can say that his accent is kind of Australian accent. And let's listen to Hugh Jackman. So I'm going to play a video. You can watch this video and just try to observe the accent and see all the features that I've just described here.
I think I started acting to try and work myself out. I don't think I ever thought about becoming an actor. I stumbled into an acting class and I remember thinking, everyone should do this. This is kind of the breathing, the learning to just let go of yourself, have fun, learning to trust your instincts and not be afraid of what other people think about that. These are tools for life. I probably thought that was going to be the end of it. This is like a good self-help class, you know. And I was probably 26 before I got my first job. So it took me a while. I was a slow learner.
So if you're interested in learning Australian accent, this video is quite useful for you because there are different features you need to learn to sound like an Australian. And it will also help you to understand an Australian person or an Aussie because they might be using all these features. So it's really helpful for you to understand a person from Australia effectively. Alright, so that's all for today. I hope you liked this video. Please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe this channel. So I hope to see you in next time. Goodbye, mate.